Alex Wooden on 100% Canadian maple syrup.
If you're about my age, 26 or older, you may remember a book that used to be part of the curriculum in school. We learned of the horrors of totalitarian fascism in George Orwell's novel 1984, a masterpiece of fiction laced with fact. Yet in spite of China treating its citizens, although it uses Orwell's nightmare as a playbook, we allow them to be one of our biggest trading partners. Even though we spent nearly $5 million on a memorial to the victims of communism, that year, 2015, China was our third biggest trade partner. Seems like, ironically, the money seems to have come from the proceeds of communism. Thankfully, due to public outrage, it was scaled down to $3 million and then $1.5 million finally. Still, quite the two-faced doublethink you'd expect from a commie piece of shit like our King Trudeau. After all, nearly in tears, he expressed how much he adored Fidel Castro upon his death. I have never seen such sincerity in the former acting teacher's slappable face. The long list of atrocities in the CCP's history is ripe with examples of their crimes against humanity that go unpunished and undiscussed in policy and in most media. Numerous Chinese refugees and Communist Party whistleblowers have made claims of forced organ harvesting of the Falun Gong practitioners, who the party feared as a political opposition and had a mass genocide committed upon. 65,000 dead being the official estimate from only 2000 to 2008 alone. But who can trust that figure? The party appearing to sell every piece of the executed for profits. Blood, hair, bone marrow, eyeballs, like the GNR song. You dirtbag commies. You're power hungry, selling soldiers in a human grocery store. Ain't that fresh? Fresh indeed. When I searched, does China harvest organs from prisoners? Wiki gave me this result. Due to low levels of voluntary organ donation, most organs used in transplants are sourced from prisoners. The Chinese government approved regulation in 1984 to allow the removal of organs from executed criminals, provided that they give prior consent, or if no one claims the body. Now come on, who believes that last part about if they give consent? If they gave consent in the first place, there would not be a need for new legislation to be enacted. That's basic first grader logic. The forced organ harvesting, specifically though, is a claim that is never denied in detail or at all, with the outrage that would arrive upon the accusations, if false. We as a nation have had reporters question their human rights. We are told, prefaced with anger and financial threats, it's none of our business, and we shouldn't question how they do things. Back in 2016, with no pushback from ministers or the PM, sparking online international condemnation. Regardless of how they dispose of the corpses, China does execute and imprison people for talking smack about the Communist Party, or dealing or consuming drugs. I'm sure there is a multitude of offenses, but they do not stop at murder and rape. This is public knowledge. And they don't deny it either. In fact, they are proud of it. These communists are the same breed of fascist, if not more barbaric, than the Nazi regime of last century. The disastrous one-child policy that saw baby girls murdered, separated from families, and God knows what else, literal murder of newborn children, like in the Bible epic of Passover infamy. There's the Tiananmen Square massacre of 1989, which conservative estimates number in the hundreds of thousands murdered in half of a day, or less. A genocide in the street, unprovoked, only instigated by a student rally. The government's police censor all internet search information, hard drives, and communications, punishing those who publish or express what they do not agree with. YouTube, Facebook, and Google do not exist there. Actually, they have contracted Google to build their own state-approved equivalents. Heck, and now with TikTok exploding in popularity, they're exporting the information espionage to another covert level to do just what Facebook did in North America and Europe, steal user data, legally or not. In spite of all this, we let liberals, using Trudeau as a figurehead, sell out our sovereignty and economy to their dictatorship. Back in 2017, the Liberal federal government stated they would be contributing $256 million of taxpayer money, obviously, over 5 years to the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, or AIIB. Yet, their budget bill gives Finance Minister Monroe, the one who tabled the 300-page piece of legislation, the authority to transfer up to $375 million USD, which is about $480 million in Canadian dollars, But we can't forget the damning sale of Vancouver-based Norsat International Incorporated to the Communist Party-owned and operated Hytera Communications Co. Limited, a satellite company that supplies materials to the United States military and Canada's NATO partners, a decision that was advised against by the RCMP and Canada's military. The USA has since said will probably be excluded from military info in the future, meaning they don't trust us. And why would they at this point? And now there is the coronavirus. Wei Wenliang, the Chinese doctor who shared his fears in a post warning of the scale of the virus, was charged with making false statements, imprisoned, and later dead of the virus. Most people on the comments section of the few videos that I watched covering it think the government offed him. I believe the same, because I'm a fan of logical thinking. So if they punished a man who privately communicated with friends online on something he was a literal expert in, whether or not he was killed by lack of care or execution, it's a clear demonstration of their political sentiment and willingness to resort to animalistic, metaphorical cannibalism, not unlike ants or cockroaches, in their willingness to eat their own. So is it so very far-fetched to think that, in light that the USA publicly has an island where they create and test long-dead superbugs and bioweapons, that these blood-soaked red commies could have the same sort of installations? I'd wager they would not be above doing a test run on their own citizens, spreading the disease at a public event, like the food festival where the outbreak all started, and blame it on a roasted bat, when it's really a careful plan of the incubation of a virus via a hot free food to hundreds of thousands of people. And where did the initial plane full get quarantined? Why, a Canadian military base. No security risk there. No, not at all. And not a shocking development when our national defense minister was born in India. I'm sorry, but being a foreign person in charge of our national defense, he has less skin in the game. Other ministers can be from an immigration background. That's fine. I've got absolutely no problems with that. But that is too sensitive a post for a non-native born Canadian. So in light of the conclusion that any fan of Spock could make, even on a brain full of pot smoke and a belly ripe with pot brownies, logic dictates that there is nothing that they won't do for power. And yet we let them come here in mass. Not the refugees trying to escape China. No, we let the party track them down, if not officially, in covert. Why assume that? Logic. No, we let billionaires buy up mass amounts of real estate in Vancouver, BC, making most houses unaffordable at $1 million or more, far surpassing the capitalist corporate greed, as disgusting as it is. The billionaires who, let's be clear, represent the red state, got their money not via innovation or market cleverness, but obedience to the party, brutality towards their fellow citizen, and the oversight of slavery of the entire working class. They excelled at the exploitation enough to get a promotion, assisting in the annexation of our home and native land. The fact that the government quarantined the possibly infected at a military base, that we are so concerned with getting people into Canada who are perfectly safe at home in China, is the very last straw. The fact that these people are going there and have family in China means they must go back and forth. They are forced to have loyalty to the party for the safety of their kin. Since there's even a hint of possibility that China would attempt to infect its own people and spread the disease around the globe, which has happened if not on purpose, Chinese Canadians need to make a choice. The rest of us need to take a stand. We need to send those godless communist murderers home before they take over our way of life and make us into a communist nightmare like them. After all, we've let the liberal federal government go this far without mass outrage. How much further can they push it before we can't even push back anymore, before standing up is a criminal act? One thing is certain, Trudeau is guilty of treason, along with his party members, and needs to be impeached for foreign influence, and we need to stop doing deals with the people who stand for everything Canadians stand against. Soybean sales be damned. Remember, Ben Franklin said, when the government lies, the truth becomes a traitor. I'm Al Witten. Thank you.